Hey everyone, and welcome to another Crusader Kings 3 modding lesson on the Iron Workshop. In this lesson, we'll learn how to create new decisions in Crusader Kings 3. Now, there are a lot of types of decisions that you can make, and this lesson will only explain the basics of how to create one. If you want to create more diverse decisions or decisions that do very certain things in the game, it is highly recommended that you look up a similar decision that already exists in the game and then just apply the effects to your own decision. So with that said, let's roll the intro and get to it. The first thing that I'm going to do is to create a new mod by opening the Crusader Kings 3 launcher. For those of you who already have a mod and just want to implement decisions in that mod, you can just skip this step and go directly to step number 2. For the rest of us, we'll go to mods, we'll go to mod tools, create mod, and here we'll give the name to our mod. So I'll just call it the decisions mod. This is the version of my mod, and this is the folder that will hold my mod files. So I'll also call it decisions mod like that, and I'll assign it the decisions tag. Click create mod, and our mod has been created and automatically activated by the game. We can close the launcher and proceed to step number 2, which is to create our folder and file structure. In step number 2, we'll be creating the folder and file structure to let the game know that we now have a mod which is supposed to incorporate decisions into the game. So to do that, we'll open the Crusader Kings 3 mod folder. That one is located in Documents, Paradox Interactive, Crusader Kings 3 mod. And alongside that, I'll also open the vanilla, the original game folder as well. You can find that folder in Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Crusader Kings 3 game. So let's open our mod folder. The first folder that I will need in my mod is the common folder. So let's go ahead and add that. Inside of the common folder, we need the decisions folder. So here it is right here. So I'm going to create it as well inside of the commons folder, inside of the common folder. And from this folder, I'll be copying one of these files. In this case, I'll take the minor decisions, just so that we can see how we can create these decisions. Of course, make sure to put this file inside the decisions folder, just like that. Excellent. Now I'll go back to the root folder of my mod, the first folder of my mod, and I'll do the same for the original game folders as well. The next folder that we'll need is the GFX folder, so I will create that one. Inside of the GFX folder, we'll need the interface folder. So let's go ahead and create that one. And from the interface folder, we'll need the illustrations folder, which is located right here. Inside of this folder, we have a specific folder for decisions. So let's go ahead and create this one as well. And I'll just take one of these files, which I will use as a template for my decision. All right, the last folder that we'll need is the localization folder. So let's go back to the root folder of the mod and of the game. And from here, we have the localization folder. So let's go ahead and create it as well. Next, we'll need to create the proper language folder. So in this case, I'm using English, but if you are using a different language, then obviously create the folder for that language. So we'll do it like this. And from the English folder, I'll just need one of these files. Now there is no specific file for decisions. There are actually quite a few of them. I'll just take this file, for example, decisions L English, and I will also change its name so that we don't overwrite anything in the game. I'll just call it new decisions L English. Please note that it's very important that you keep the _L_English suffix, since that will tell the game to use this file for the English version of the game. Obviously, if your game is in a different language, you'll need to apply the corresponding suffix. Alright, the last thing that I want to do is to go back to the common folder, decision, and also change the name of this file. I'll just call it the new decisions file, just like that. Again, so that we don't overwrite any existing stuff in the game. We can close this folder, we can minimize this one, and we can now go to step number 3, creating our new decision entry. In step number 3, we'll be creating the decision entry. Now, before we begin, I have some bad news about creating decisions in Crusader Kings 3. It seems that for some reason, Paradox have decided to exclude decisions as a mechanic that you can actually reload in the game in real time to see the changes. That means that any changes that you do to your decisions in terms of the effects of these decisions or their requirements, you will have to restart the game in order to see these changes, and there is no real-time updates like we have with other aspects of the game, like localization or even events, which can be reloaded. So that's the bad news. The good news is that creating simple decisions is actually not that difficult. However, as any aspect of these games, it can get quite complicated if you want to. And if you really want to create very complex decisions, it's best to take a look at the decisions that are already in the game and just copy the relevant stuff to your own decisions. So let's begin. We'll open our decisions file, new decisions. And the first thing that I want to do here is to clear any other decisions that I don't want to change. So we will be working with this first decision, and I want to get rid of all the other decisions in this file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this decision from its opening bracket to its closing bracket, just like this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to press Ctrl+A on my keyboard to select everything, press delete, and then Ctrl+V to paste this decision. And the next thing that I'm going to do is to change the ID of this decision so that it doesn't conflict with the higher physician decision. Obviously, if you want to change an existing decision that is already in the game, then you will need to keep its original ID and not change it. So in this case, let's just change this decision to something like give me money and prestige. And that'll be the ID of our decision. Now let's see what else we have in here. So in here we have the full path to the image of this decision. Please note that the image used for the decision is the same image that shows up in the decisions panel. So for example here, this is the image that we have here in the decisions panel, and it is exactly the same image here. What happens is that the game takes this large image and then only shows a small strip of this image in the decisions panel, and it also changes its direction. It flips it horizontally. So the only image that you will be able to change is this large image, and then you will just have to make sure that it fits correctly in here in the decisions panel. As far as I know, there is no way to indicate to the game that you want one image here and a different image in here. Next, we have the description. So this is the description of our decision, and we will be changing that soon. And the description of the decision shows up in here. This is the description. Next, we have the selection tooltip, and that is the tooltip that you see when you hover your mouse over the decision right in here. After that, we have the AI check interval. So how often the AI will check this decision and actually make sure if it needs to trigger the decision or not. In this case, it's 0. It means that the AI is not checking this decision. Now, I don't really want to go too deep into AI modding in this lesson in order to keep things simple, but that is what it does. Next, we have is shown. So what are the requirements in order to see this decision in the decisions panel? In this case, we only need to be the ruler. So basically any character that you will play will see this decision. After that, we have the cooldown. So for how many days this decision will not be available. And after these days expire, you will be able to take this decision again. After that, we have something called is valid showing failures only. Now, I gotta be honest, I tried playing around with it. I'm not sure what it does. It seems to be around quite a lot, but I did not see any particular effect that it has. So you can either keep it or you can remove it. It's up to you. Next, we have the effects of the decisions. So what happens when you actually click on the decision to execute it. And after that, we have AI potential, and AI will do, again, things related to how likely the AI is to actually trigger and use this decision. So the first thing that I want to do is to change the effect of this decision. Now, the effect that I want to give it is quite simple. I just want this decision to give my character money and prestige. So I'm going to remove everything from here, and I will just add the following lines. Add gold 100 and add prestige also 100. Now, when you type things like that, that will always target your character, the character that you're playing. If you want to target other characters, I'm going to talk about that in the extra syntax section of this video, so stay tuned for that if you want to learn a little bit about scoping and how to target other aspects of the game. So our decision is quite simple. We will just be getting gold and prestige from this decision. Other aspects that we can change is the cooldown. So for example, I can give it like 10 days cooldown. And the next thing that I want to change is the localization and the image. So let us proceed to step number 4, creating our decision image. So as we have seen, we have the full path to the image of this decision listed right here at the start of the decision. So let's just go ahead and follow that. We'll open our mod folder, and in here we'll go to GFX, Interface, Illustrations, Decisions, and in here we have the decision recruitment file, but obviously we can change it, so we can just give it the money decision name like this, and obviously change the name of this file. Now I can go ahead and open this file in a program like paint.net, and I can actually change it. Another thing that you can do is to open it in paint.net and just paste another image over it, and that way you can create a whole new image for your decision. For the purpose of this lesson, I'm just going to put some kind of a change in here so that we can see it in the game. And I'm going to save it. I'll go to File, Save As. In here, I'll make sure to select the Direct Draw Surface file format. Save, yes. And in here, make sure to select the A8, R8, G8, B8 format. OK. And our image has been saved and it can now be used in the game. So now that our decision picture is ready, let's move on to step number 5, creating our decision localization. Now, when it comes to creating localization for your decision, there are 2 ways to do this. If you have really short localization, you can do it directly here in the file without creating localization keys. So for example, if you want to add a description for your decision, you can do it like this. Just type quotation marks and type your description in here. That will work just fine as long as the description is short. Now, I can't really tell you how many characters the game will work with, but after you pass a certain threshold, the description will no longer be shown properly. So if your description is long, it's best to put it inside of a localization key, which I will explain in a minute. Same thing we can do for the selection tooltip. You can just type quotation marks, type your selection tooltip description, and that will work just fine. But for the purpose of this lesson, let's create a localization key. So let's open our mod folder. We'll go to localization, English, or if you have a different language, then the name of that language. We'll open the new decisions L-English file. And in here, you have the localization for all the decisions in the game. So let us just remove all the stuff that we don't need, but make sure to keep the L English at the start of the file. It's essential to let the game know that this is the English file for the decisions. All right, so let's just remove everything else. And in here, what we're going to do is first of all type the ID of our decision. This is the ID of our decision. I'm going to copy it over to the file like that. Make sure to leave a space just to make things more clear. So to create our localization key, we need the decision ID, which we've already placed in here. Next, we'll type the colon like that, space. Next, we'll type the colon, 0, space, quotation marks. So that is the localization key. And in here, we can just call it the give me gold and money, just like that. Another thing that we can put in here is the description for our decision. In order to put the description, we'll need to first of all type it in here. That's the localization key for our description. So for example, gold and prestige description. And then I'll take this into the localization file. And once again, colon, 0, quotation marks, gives me a lot of gold and prestige. Yeah, that should be prestige, right? Next, we can also do the same thing for the selection tooltip. So for example, I can change this to tooltip and then just copy it over here. Again, colon, 0, blah, 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 something, something. And one more thing that you can put in here is the localization that will appear on the button when we click it. In order to do that, we need the localization key, like that. And at the end, we'll need to add confirm, like this, colon, 0, give me, just like that. Excellent. So now our localization has been created and we can go into the game and test our new decision. So let's go ahead and do this now. All right, so here we have our decision. And as you can see, we have give me gold and prestige, gives me a lot of gold and prestige, and give me, that is the localization. We have our amazing piece of art work in here, our decision image. And that is basically all you need to know about creating decisions. Now, as I said before, decisions can actually be more complex than that, but this should definitely get you started. Obviously, when I click this decision, I will receive 100 gold and 100 prestige. So now that we're done creating our decision, I will talk about scoping and how you can actually apply effects to other characters in the game in the extra syntax portion of this video. If you're done watching, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next video, lesson, or tutorial on the Iron Workshop. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the extra syntax portion of this video for those of you who have stayed. Now, in this section, I'm going to talk a little bit about scoping and how we can apply our decision effects to other characters. Now, let me begin by saying that scoping in Crusader Kings 3 is actually very complex. This obviously has to do with the fact that this is a character-based game, and there are a lot of random characters, and there are a lot of changes happening all the time. So it can take you quite a while to understand how scoping works. First of all, what is scoping? Scoping is the term used for locating an object in the game. For the purposes of our lesson, we're talking about characters, but it can also be other things like titles or provinces and things like that. So let's see how we can actually apply our effects to different characters in the game. Now, I will not cover scoping completely, since that is a very broad and complex topic that I don't really want to complicate in this lesson, and I might actually make a separate video on it in the future. Please let me know in the comments if you want me to make that video. But for now, let's see what we can do in here. So let's say that I want to grant the gold here not to my character, but to my wife or husband, or in other words, to the spouse of my character. So to do that, you will have to use the following code: primary spouse, and then just put the effect inside of that, and that will give the gold and prestige to your primary spouse. Now, if your religion actually allows to have multiple spouses, then you will need to find another way to do that, but it will still grant it to your primary, your first spouse. Next, let's say that you want to give the gold and prestige to your religious head, in case the religion that your character has a religious head. So in order to do that, you will need to use the following code: faith.religioushead, and then just put the effect inside of that. So what this does, it actually goes into the game and it looks at the faith of your character. It then searches for the religious head of this faith and then grants that character the gold and prestige. Another thing that you can do is to actually do effects on every member of your dynasty. So in order to do that, you will need to type the following: dynasty, and inside of that type every dynasty member, and then just apply the effect inside of that. And that means that every member of your dynasty will receive the gold and prestige. So this is just a small explanation of how you can do this. The best way to fully understand how you can scope to other characters is to look at existing decisions in the game and see how things are applied there. You will probably figure it out in no time. Different scoping might be a bit more difficult to understand, but at the end of the day, these files are built in a way that both the developers and modders are supposed to understand them, so they're not too complex. But as I said before, scoping in Crusader Kings 3 is a bit more complex than it is in other Paradox games. Alright, so this is it for the extra syntax. I hope that everything works out for you in this lesson. If something doesn't work, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best to help you. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and leave a comment. It helps the algorithm to boost the video and let everybody else see it and learn how to create decisions as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video, lesson or tutorial on the Iron Workshop. Bye bye. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. The algorithm and me will be very happy. Here are more videos I make. If you like my stuff, consider subscribing to be notified when new content is available. The Iron Workshop lives and thrives thanks to the continued support of my Patreons. If you're willing and able, you can support me on Patreon for just $1 and get access to exclusive and early content. See you around.